Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Jane from Chalk Mercantile and Surface Anthology, coming live to start a fun project that I'm really jazzed about. Let me know in the comments if I start to freeze. I was just doing a Facebook Live with my Surface Anthology members and was freezing. So I'm not getting any little alerts or anything on my iPad, but you never know, like what's going on. So what I want to start, and this is going to be a multi-step kind of project. We'll call it slow making, right? Is using, this is an iron orchid, one of their wood, I call it a wood canvas. But these are wonderful, and you can use either side, right? The flat, or use this one like has a built-in frame, like as a shadow box. But we're going to be using the flat side today. And the first thing we're going to need, because I'm going to be drawing an urn. Hey, Shannon, let me know if I start freezing. Oh, it's so crazy. And Shannon is in my membership. She's very, very creative and adds so much to the membership. Thank you, Shannon. But I think what happened, it was a Facebook issue because when I rewatched it, it was fine. I think it was like a buffering issue. But we're going to need a vase. And this one I made for another project that we actually did in the membership is too big. So I'm going to make another one and show you how I do that. But this is going to be my design that I'm going to use, the base of my design. So how I do this is oh, the replay was great. See, Shannon? Oh my goodness. I have a piece of copy paper here. If you're working on something larger, you're gonna need, excuse me, a larger piece of paper. You could use brown craft paper, which I use all the time. Hey, Wendy. Hi. She's saying, hello, creatives. Wendy's over on YouTube. Thanks for joining me, you guys. So I just take a piece of paper, and you have to think about the size of your project and the size of, how big you want to make your little vase or your urn. I fold the paper in half, and I do that because I'm going to draw it on one side, right? And then I could just open it and it'll be perfect. I don't have to sit here and try to draw out the whole thing and make it balanced. So this is really, really easy. But what I do is I put my paper on my project and I decide, okay, how far up from the bottom do I want it? How far from the top do I want it to be, right? So my urn or my vase is going to be about that tall. It's about a little, it's a little under a third of my board here. And then I decide, okay, if this is the middle, and if you want to be really accurate, you could get a ruler and find your middle. How wide do I want this to be, right? Do I want to have a really skinny little vase? Do I want something that's really wide, one of those big, beautiful ones? But you just find that point. So now you have, let me get a little bit closer. There we go. So now you have these 3 points, bottom and the top, right? So a triangle. And then you could just sit and draw out your design, right? So here's the top. Mine is going to be very flat. I'm not doing a realistically drawn vase. And then you just draw, maybe a lip up at the top, a belly, the neck. You could do all kinds of fun things. And if you do it in pencil, you could sit and play around and really have a ball. And then the base of your vase or urn, right? Just like that. So there's one style. And if I cut that out, I'll have the whole thing. But here's the one I drew for this project. And again, I just sat and looked at it. How do I want this to be? There it is. So how do I want it to be? And there she lives, right? Then I just take, and by the way, the other thing you could do too, and I've done this, is put your drawing on your printer, scan it, and then you can make it larger, make it smaller, and you just can use the same one over and over and over again. So then we just cut this out. I'm using big, chunky scissors. And try to be as neat as you can, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And really, I should be using paper scissors. There's a tool for everything, right? There's scissors for every kind of cutting you can imagine. But I've got these, so I'm making do. So I'm just cutting this out. I have to tell you, and I'm a lefty. All of a sudden, I don't find a lot of scissors in lefty styles anymore. All right, I'm just gonna pop that out. So here is the little vase, right? Perfect, just what I want. But if you want to use a, oh my God, I never know the word for this. Mask, right? If you wanted to mask a design. And that means I would put this down. I would probably attach another piece of paper here down at the bottom just so I have a good mask. But I could tape this to my board and then use a stamp over that negative space. Lift it off and you have your vase stamped, or however you want to do it. So that's why you want to cut it out neatly, as neat as you can be. But we're using this one. And the other thing is, this is copy paper, so it's a little flimsy. So you have to be kind of careful when you trace around this. You can't, if you do this a lot, you can get a paper that's a little bit heavier to cut out your vase, and it will work even better. So that's done. And my idea is, just so you could see while I'm working through the steps, what my concept is. So I've got my vase. I made these beautiful bird molds yesterday. So I want to incorporate a couple of these in. Now, just laying this down like this, I go, you know what? I don't even need to add what I was going to add. I can make like a water fountain, right? You can, you know, this could be a bird bath where the birds are coming in to have a little refreshment. But what I really want to do is grab this mold. This is the rosettes mold, and make a bunch of flowers that I'm going to put kind of coming out of my vase. Somehow I might attach them. I might add some greenery, right? I'm not sure yet, but then add those birds in too, right? I also made some of the smaller ones in case these feel too big, right? This mold, I've never used this mold before, is beautiful. I just absolutely love it. And I dried these molds, by the way, because let me tell you, I'm going to be working with dry molds. Hey, Deborah, good to see you. I'm going to be working with dried molds because I want to, of course, do some painting and leafing. And I use a cookie cooling rack so they don't warp. Because when you try to dry these, and if you put them down on something, the top is going to dry faster than the bottom, and it's going to contract, right? The dry is going to shrink while the wet underneath isn't, and you're going to get a really warped mold. So get a cookie cooling rack if you don't have one. I got mine at Goodwill for like $1, and it works really well. So first thing I'm going to do before I show you how I make molds, in case I think everybody here knows how to make a mold. You guys, I know you all use the iron orchid molds, but let me know if you've never made a mold before, and I'll show you how I do it. I've got my little 1-inch brush. I've got to put a base down, and I love these really pale blues. So I grabbed Sky by MudPaint, and yes, I'm going to be working out of the little jar because it's getting to the bottom. But if you have MudPaint, DIY paint, Debbie's Design Diary, any paint you use, you should not do this. I'm getting down to the bottom, but these paints have very little preservatives added to them, which keeps them on the all-natural level. And when you introduce that brush that's got bacteria into it and you're going like this, you can end up with a moldy mess. So really what you should do is mix it, pour it out in a little container, all right? And then keep your paint nice and fresh. So I'm going to wet my brush. And I do this to keep the paint from migrating up into the ferrule. It does help a lot with that. And I'm going to dry it on my handy dandy drop cloth that I'm working on. And then we're just going to paint. My paint's getting kind of blobby. And if you find that too, your paint's getting thick, add some water to it, but don't add it to it into the jar that you're using. Pour it out, add it to whatever container you're working out of. So again, you're not introducing anything weird into your paint. But I love these pale colors. My ceiling in my house, on my entire first floor, is painted in, it's a Faro and Ball color. And I think it's been actually archived, but it's the palest blue, and it makes such a difference in all the rooms. It's really nice. All right. Grab that. That's the other thing you pick up when you start working out of your jar, is all the dried paint that's on the edge. So that's it. And then of course I'm going to do the sides. I won't make you watch me, but you want to do the sides and have a really nice base of paint down. Now the next thing, I'm going to let this dry. And this is MudPaint, by the way. It's got really great coverage. I will still do 2 coats because I just have to. All right, get that over there, let that dry. Next thing is making molds. I can't even put this, hey Cheryl, I can't even put this lid back on. I have such paint build up around the edge. All right, you all know how to make a mold, but I'm gonna show, just for people that might be watching in the replay, over on YouTube or here on Facebook, how to make an iron orchid mold. Cornstarch, right? And then I have one brush that's dedicated for this. I put them together, I grab them, I use this so often, this is what I do. And I'm just gonna brush the inside of the molds, and I'm gonna use the smaller ones for this project. Again, here's my little vase. So, you know, you want to think about your design as a whole. This is a fantasy piece. This is not meant to be realistic, but you can get giant, even if I were putting together a flower arrangement, peonies are huge. So if you wanted to use a giant one, you absolutely can. But you want to think about the placement as you're making these and kind of mess around with them until you're happy. So they don't have to all be tiny. That's my point. So I'll just make a couple. Grab my clay. Keep your clay airtight. It's air dry clay, and if the air gets to it, then it's gonna dry. And I've tried re-wetting it, it doesn't work. So keep it airtight. I just roll it like this in between my palms, right? And I like to use one of the Iron Orchid burnishing tools for this. You can use a credit card, anything as long as it's not metal so you don't gouge your mold. But press your clay into that design. And then all I do from the middle out, I just push off the excess clay. Just like that. Easy peasy. Roll it up, put it back in, and then bend. And look at that, beautiful. I love this. I love this mold. I love all the molds, but this is definitely one of my favorites. So then, and I'll show it again. My board is drying. So I want to have these, and then I want to add the birds in. And have the flowers that are the molds. This mold looks quite big compared to how delicate like the base of my vase is. So what I might do once I paint it is add a little bit of bulk to the bottom of this, the foot of this vase. But I'll see, you know, that's all something you could do when you're playing with paint. You can really have fun. So, ooh, let me grab this. This is the base for anybody that joined late, right? I'm using an Iron Orchid board. I'm going to be putting this down, tracing it and painting it, okay? And then applying my molds that I'm going to paint and or gild. I'm not sure yet. So we're gonna let this dry. If you're joining me, it's gonna be done now. It's going to be done in a series of steps. Isn't it cute, Cheryl? I know, it's gonna be adorable. Especially with these birds. Cheryl, can you believe I've never used this mold before? And I'm in love. And if I really wanna go crazy, I can add, I was thinking about this, little mushrooms. There's some tiny mushrooms down here at the bottom. It depends how it goes. So join me again. Today's Wednesday. I will probably be on tomorrow, and everything should be dry. You could paint your molds when they're wet like this. You just have to be careful because the more you press that brush into a wet mold, you're gonna lose some of the detail. So you can't gild them wet, absolutely not. So they have to be dry. So I'm gonna make the rest of my molds off camera, and then join me again tomorrow, and I'm gonna be, yes, the bird song mold, absolutely. Yep, really cute, I know, I love it, I love it. I love it. So far, I love it, Cheryl. We'll see. The other thing is, after you make your little vase, template, I might paint my vase template. I might cut it out in decoupage. I'm not sure yet. So it's a lot of fun. And remember, you're being creative. So don't limit yourself. Don't do what I do. Or you could do what I do, but don't limit yourself to that. So, hey, Myra. So Myra, this is, and I know people are going to ask about this. Go back to the beginning, or you could go to my Surface Anthology YouTube channel, because now we're live, and I show you how I make these. This is handmade, hand drawn, and it's really, really easy. I made a huge one on a piece of furniture, and it's just the easiest thing in the world to do. And I show you how to do it. So Myra, go back to the beginning of the video when we're all done, and you can have yours made by tomorrow and join in, right? Oh, Deborah, fantastic. I'll see you tomorrow. Everybody, I'll see you tomorrow. If you didn't catch the beginning, because this is easy, and it when you start to make your own designs, whether it's an urn, a cup, a vase, I can make, you know, all kinds of stuff with this technique. It really allows for a lot of freedom because these could be sized up, sized down, whatever you want. Yes. Oh, Cheryl, I was thinking of I was thinking of it. So there's this guy, right, with the Chewy box commercial, and it's also, he's talking about a tail. You have a tail, I don't have a tail, but in 1,000 years, right? But yeah, vase. I say vase. I also say aunt. And I remember when I moved, you know, to New York when I was 17 as a freshman in art school, I'd be like, oh, my aunts. And they're like, where are you from? The South? And I'm like, no, I'm from Connecticut. But we don't say aunts, right? But yeah, vase. And that's why I was like, vase, you know, urn. Of course, urn, I think of a place you put people's ashes, right, Cheryl? Oh, Shannon, you are so welcome. Thanks, you guys, for joining me. I know, Cheryl, I sit there, you know me. I sit there and I just laugh, right? And I look at my dogs. And let me tell you, if they could talk, I know they'd give me an earful. But get your vase made. And Myra, make sure you go back because it's so super easy. Right, Myra's like, I crack up every time. Absolutely. People who write commercials, I don't know. I just die. Some of them, they're just hilarious. And reels, I started watching Instagram reels, you know, especially when I'm doing like uploading videos for the membership. I'm sitting here and it might take, you know, it can take sometimes hours to upload videos and all of that. So I start looking at my phone at these reels and I'm dying laughing. I'm absolutely dying laughing. I could go on and on. It's so hilarious. And I do love to laugh. And Cheryl, I know you love to laugh too. You too, Shannon, right? All right, you guys, join me tomorrow. I'm going to, unless something comes up, I will be here and we'll do the next step of this little project, which I'm really excited about. So I'll see you then, you guys. Take care.